Well, good morning. So thank you for the nice introduction. I wasn't sure my mathematical background would be mentioned, but what I want to do today is I want to talk to you about a study that we did across companies, and actually not only large ones, but also small ones, on how the profession in marketing changes and what kind of problems we as marketeers have to deal with. And then to talk a little bit about the fact, how do we see this marketing profession changing? And I want to describe that out of my own experience, as well as out of, I think, everybody, all our clients' experience. And I wonder if you actually experience the same thing. Now, doing that, I also want to start with a little bit of statistics. And why is everything changing? I mean, you heard statistics before. Thomas mentioned big data and all the analytics around it. But to do that in a bit, if you look at what did it take to reach 50 million users, if you look at the radio, and to get this right here, it took the radio 38 years. On television, it took 13 years. On the internet, it took 4. And just reaching the same amount of people. If you look at now, Facebook is adding 100 million users in less than 9 months. An iPhone in 9 months got 1 billion downloads of applications. So we all know that, but these numbers are huge. And the impact on what that does for us as a marketing organization to deal with that fact is enormous. So having looked at that, what we did in order to recognize a bit how do we need to change our marketing approach, as well as it is for us a new market opportunity to look at how this marketing profession actually deals with all these changes, we did a study. We did a study interviewing 1,700 chief marketing officers around the world, telcos, banks, but a lot of medium and small business owners across all industries, and we asked them, what do you see changing? So if you look at that, we were actually astonished that around the world, there's different sizes of industry, of businesses, different industries, the answers didn't vary so much. It was very, very consistent in what challenges the marketing organization sees coming at them. Now, approximately 80%, 79% to be precise, came back and saying it will be very complex and more complex than ever, and somehow the level of complexity is so that less than half of them answered that they feel prepared today to deal with it. So if you look at that, you see here these factors that we group them in. So it's 13 answers that we got of what are the biggest headaches that marketeers really see, and how much is it impacting their business. Now, half of them said they are not prepared to deal with it, and they also said the only thing they are really prepared to deal with are exactly 2. One is regulatory considerations, and one is transparency throughout their own business. But that is not what really makes your profession rich and booming, since as a marketeer, I mean, you want to be out there, reach clients, and do that. So you see here the 13 factors. You see how people responded in how unprepared they are on the y-axis, and you'll see from left to right how much they see that impacting them. And if you look at the biggest 4, this is exactly the same result that we get when we talk to CEOs. So at least that's good to see that marketing and the business is aligned. And it is not a big surprise. So if you look at the first one, data explosion, Thomas talked about it, you heard some of that yesterday, big data and everything around it is there. Now, the answer from the marketing community was, we do get a handle of consuming all the data. We have all the data, we can also put it into buckets and somehow segment it, but it's still the biggest concern to do something useful with it. Secondly, social media. Another element that we talk about for years, that all of you use, that all of us experience, that's changing depending on the generation and age of all the individuals we deal with. Very different behaviors of our customers, of every client that might listen much more to any peer group, to any suggestion by a user group versus anything that you can influence from a business perspective. Now, this was mostly listed here because CMOs don't know what to do with it. I mean, the impact on it is still not clear to its own business. We all experience with it, we all experiment with it from the perspective that we know, okay, let's use all the social media, it has an impact, but what does it do to our profession, to read our clients? And how do we get that organized is still very much unknown. The third element, different channels, different choices, is something that was a little bit ranked lower here in the impact. We certainly all use that. We use our phone, we use our other tablets, all kinds of devices. As Thomas pointed out, everything is connected. The automated car, the automated home, the cow that knows when the next calf is coming. But it's again a question, what does that do to the marketing organization? Because all of a sudden, our value proposition has to fit in a tweet. Can we really come across and talk about what we can offer and do in something that is as short as a tweet? And things like that. So a big concern of marketeers. And then the fourth element is the shift in demographics. We see enormous changes between the generations. If I, for example, look at us, we are certainly more known for selling software to big companies and about infrastructure. But now we do sell something like predictive technologies that every student uses. So what does that mean for us? How can we actually change that IBM is not about big computers and mainframes? It is predictive technologies where every student really uses our technology. And what does that mean for us in how we represent us as a company and do business with? So having said that, and leaving that study for a moment then by itself, so what does that mean from changing the marketing profession? And we really think that if you look at what marketing was about previously, it was always about knowing the clients, knowing your products and pricing, and how to somehow show a brand promise. But with all these changes and with all these challenges, that is not enough anymore. And we do think it really changes into like three major areas. One is that you have to know each and every customer and client as an individual. Secondly, that you create a really good experience as a company very intensely throughout the life cycle of with that client. And thirdly, that this brand value that we talk about is something that the marketing organization needs now to influence with a much higher set of people, because we are all really have to manage that interaction and have to influence how every employee, how every partner, how other clients talk about us as a brand. So the influence we need to take is much changing. So looking at these three, the first one, knowing each client as an individual. If you look at the mission before in marketing, we all did segmentation in describing who do we want to address, how do we want to address that person, how do we get the right contacts, and finding means to go to them. Now, you as a person react differently to it. I mean, we all have these examples, and I'm sure you have many of them, that you get an offer of something that you just react to, that's not me, I don't know why they came to me. Very simple projects like, to take an example for me personally, I live in New York. In the US, everybody has a mortgage. You never pay off your house. You never have enough money to pay off your house. So it is quite natural that throughout the life cycle of owning a house, you get these mortgage offers. And when the crisis started about taking more, the number of phone calls that I got every night at dinner in, am I interested to refinance my mortgage and go to a different company, was enormous. Now, when I grew up here, and I had paid off my house, so I was always wondering, why do they keep calling me? And it really upset me. And you have many examples like that, where you connect then a negative connotation with a company, with a name, with an institution that contacts you, if it doesn't fit you. So knowing now everybody as an individual, not only as the business person you interact with, but also at the overall background is very important. And we have all the tools to do that, all the information. It's partly on the web, it's out in the social, on the social side, collecting it, aggregating it, and contacting then the client you want to market on, really fitting that person in addition to the business side is extremely important. Now, there are all the tools that are available to do that, but doing this properly is hard. I find it very hard. So if I have, we have all the tools, we have all the analytics tool to put all the data together, but then changing our system that we market to an individual and to each individual client, and scaling that is a hard transformation to go through. And not only is it about then having the data, analyzing the data, getting the right moves out of it, it is also applying predictive models on what is the next move based on that information that you have. So for us as a marketing organization to look into that, having the data, analyzing the data, having all the information about the individual, applying to that predictive technologies to really address then the individual, that is one of the most important pieces that each of the marketing leaders have to do. So let's imagine we can handle that, and we have done that, and we go to the next one, managing the experience that you have with the company versus looking at each and everything as a single transaction. So we in marketing very often create demand. We look at pipeline, we look at the demand we built and how to sell to a customer. But what if, for customer support, a wrong bill arrives and the experience is not where it should be? So finding ways in really managing the experience at every touch point, in connecting marketing, sales, customer support, customer deployment, and not only do that with your own employees, but with a wide partner network that you work with. I mean, Thomas talked about partners and how much bigger the ecosystem works. The client sees that experience as one experience across your company and with your partner. So managing this all together is an extreme change. So thirdly, brand image. So we all know these examples where some employee tweeted something in a way that is totally inappropriate. Or one customer actually talks about your services, your products in a very bad manner, and everybody knows instantly. Before, we could contain that. We could contain it in a way that It's just the information isn't out. But now we can't. And it is much, much more important how each of our employees, how each of our partners really talks about us and how we react with it. Now, for me, that means I have to have now much, much more influence, not only in my typical profession in doing and building pipeline and representing IBM externally, but really also in how do my partners talk about us, how do we bring all this together, and how do we want to be on the outside. So the amount of interaction before, we always portrayed like the well-being of the employees as being more an HR topic. We have our own organization that embeds and deals with all the partners, but now we have to bring it all together. And for us as a marketing organization to be successful, we need to combine this whole ecosystem. So to sum this up, I think the marketing profession, like any other job, gets much, much more complex. In really having to look at from going for knowing customers and products and representing a brand, to really knowing each of the buyer and each individual, to have this very good experience throughout the life cycle of a company interacting with the client. And thirdly, to really look at this total ecosystem, what the brand stands for. So a big challenge, but an interesting challenge. And I think a great way how this profession changes and how interesting it is to be in marketing. So with that, a short overview of how we see that changing. Do you have any questions? I heard you're very shy, so nobody must have any experience.
Any questions from your side?
Do you agree with that? Do you experience these challenges?
So maybe one question from my side, but we have to take it very, very briefly, as we have a discussion around afterwards. So how do you personally deal with these kind of changes?
Well, for me personally, what it means is I think the biggest change was to not look at our typical measurements anymore. I mean, we want to make business, and it's not about mass pipeline and interaction. It's also not about mass mailing, mass this, mass that. It is really very, very targeted to get to clients. And going away from the big numbers and data and looking at real yield rates to something different and not having a measurement system, yeah. I find that the most interesting part in really defining new KPIs, new means of measuring it, and to do that.
So really scaled up, but more human than before.
Much, much more human and very different. So the change, I think, is the most fascinating path.
Thank you very much. Sabine Schilg.
Thank you.
Thank you.